Moving into the last game of the weekend, Garrin, what did we see there?
Right, that was EP Kings up against the Garden Lions in Port Elizabeth. Rob talked about poor crowds at this year's tournament, and again, unfortunately, Nelson Mandela Stadium, fantastic stadium, one of the best in the country, but not many showed up, unfortunately, for Saturday evening's game. The Kings were competitive in the first half, even the first hour of the match, and then the score sort of blew out later on. The Lions, again, we've talked many times about their formidable front row, tight five, even their whole forward pack. They really stamped their authority late in the game, sort of ran away to win by 19 points in the end, which I sort of didn't expect to be that great a margin of victory. But the Lions up to second in the log now. We picked them as our wildcard team earlier in the tournament. I still think they'll be in the playoffs, maybe even finalists in this year's tournament. The Kings, for their part, still remain winless. Bottom of the log, not looking great, a little bit upsetting, as they sort of prepare for Super Rugby in the coming years. So a lot of work to be done down in PE, but hats off to the Lions for recording another victory.
Rob?
Yeah, Jen, I must say the EP Kings certainly on paper or on looking at the log look as if they're in dire straits. I think they've got 1 point, haven't they, at the bottom, sitting right at the bottom of the table. It's a little bit deceptive because they've produced good rugby in parts. They've almost been a good 60-minute side in a lot of the matches they've played. I think when they went to Loftus, you might recall, Garrin, that they gave the Bulls a bit of a run for their money for a long part of the game, and then faded just a little bit towards the end when the Bulls took over. Maybe it's just a sort of a psychological issue, I don't know, a stamina issue, a conditioning issue, I'm not sure, but they seem to just sort of lose it a bit in the last 10 to 15 minutes. The one thing you can say about the Lions was that considering they'd come off a defeat to Western Province, they did show that they've got the quality, they've got the mental strength to go on, because they showed a great ability to close that match out, to keep their cool, and to really be the team very much on the offensive in the last 10 minutes, and then they eventually ran away with it, which I think their coach Johan Ackermann will be very pleased with going forward, especially as they've got a couple of pretty important games coming up. They've got a Bulls derby next Saturday, which will be an interesting one. So Lions very much back in the picture.
Garrin, well, we'll see you guys at the end of the week to predict next week's matches. But for all those people who are watching now who have photos to share with Sport24, how can they do that?
Right, well, if you were at any of the games this weekend, please send your pictures through to mysport@sport24.co.za, and we'd love to include them in our gallery.